how do I like them going against the top
Yeah.
Chinese players? Well, that's those guys are absolutely awesome. You've got to make these guys believe that you can play. Otherwise, you just get trampled all over your team.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a very special guest with us today. Widely considered the greatest 8-ball player of all time, 6-time 8-ball world champion, man they call the Machine. Welcome to the show, Mick Hill.
Hey, thank you very much. Nice introduction.
Now, Mick, you're over in China now. Tell us a bit about what you're doing over there. What's going on?
Yeah, so there's a couple of tournaments on. Joy Billiards have put their third stop effectively of the season. So we're in a place called Hunan, which is kind of, I don't know, in the middle of nowhere. It was plane, trains, automobiles to get here anyway. So I played the first match this morning. They've got 700 players in the first event, basically open draw. So the first round takes like 5 days or whatever it is. Yeah. So got through this morning, played a Mongolian player. It was one of the better ones, actually. There's obviously harder ones out there, but there's a couple of soft ones, as you can imagine, with 700 players. So yeah, so that tournament goes on till like, I don't know, 15th, 16th for those that are any good. Probably not for me. And then they got what they call the Super Station, which is 64 players, and that starts on around about the 19th, I think, which is the big one of the two. I think it's like 280,000 US to the winner. So yeah, it's all go. There's loads going on here. We're looked after incredibly well, I must say. And yeah, just trying to crack on as you do.
Very good. This is Chinese 8-ball that the community calls it, or sometimes Heyball. I'm never quite sure which word we're supposed to use. So, but before we dive in a bit, like we've got a lot of English 8-ball players who watch the show and a lot of snooker players who watch the show. Can you give us like a very quick summary of like what's the key differences in the game that you're playing over there to those two?
Okay, so first and foremost, it was Chinese 8-ball. There's a huge push here to try and get it into the Olympics. I believe that they've got a demonstration either at the next Olympics or 232. So the idea of the events that are taking place in Australia this month and the events that have already taken place in Australia is because I believe the 232, is it Brisbane or Sydney, the Olympics? So that's the idea of why there's events being played there now. So they've had to change the name from Chinese 8-ball and they've decided to call it Heyball. I've no idea where that name comes from, but they decided they wanted to change the name from Chinese 8-ball because that only represents China, and they're trying to, get it out there to the whole world effectively to try and get this Olympic push, and they are giving an almighty push. I mean, I never thought I would see it in the Olympics in my lifetime. I'm actually starting to believe it might actually happen. Whether I'm around to actually play it is obviously going to depend on when it happens. So the gist of it would be a 9-foot or 3/4 snooker table with American pool balls playing international rules with effectively a snooker cut type pocket. That would be the best way I could make it as simple as possible without boring everybody to death. Yeah, so 3/4 snooker table with the felt that we would be used to. So not the American pool type felt, it would be the snooker felt. American pool balls, international rules, with a few tweaks here and there, jump shot or whatever, and a snooker pocket. So you can imagine, obviously, putting the American pool ball into the snooker pocket is what makes it so tough.
Yeah, so effectively the pockets are quite small. And I think as a result of that mixed rule set, you do get players like yourself, a background in 8-ball, who'll come and have a go. Some snooker players come and have a go. Some 9-balls come and have a go. I think I saw Dennis Okolo on the list of players in the tournament you're in, for example. So you get this real mix of backgrounds because everyone thinks they've got a skill set that can adapt to this game.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when it comes to the patterns and the dark arts of the game, then the 8-ball player obviously comes to the forefront. The snooker player with the snooker style table, but just a smaller version of it, brings their skill set in terms of pocketing the balls, and the American pool player in terms of the balls. There's a unique idea of whether you should use a snooker cue or you should use an American pool type cue. There's a mixture by the top players. Some use either or depending on preference. I think where the snooker player likes it, where they never quite took to our game, was the fact that the cue ball's the same size as the object balls, regardless of if the balls are bigger.
Yeah.
I think that's a big factor for the snooker players, that the balls are all the same size, and in the past, obviously, some of the snooker players, Selby was obviously very good at it. Neil was good at it when they played at the Yushan Star World Championships, because they bring a general idea of playing 8-ball with the accuracy of potting the balls. So, yeah, a little bit of something for everyone.
So these balls are the same size. These balls are the same size as the snooker balls or the 9-ball balls, what you play?
Okay, so the balls are the same size as the American pool balls, the 9-ball balls.
Which cue sport would you say is the biggest advantage going to the Chinese 8-ball, like the snooker professionals or players like your Chris Melling, or even like your top Australian players, like guys like myself and Mick? What do you reckon?
Okay, so if I take Selby out the equation, possibly Neil out the equation, I haven't seen him play a lot of it, but and potentially maybe someone like Quinton, for example, when he was playing. These guys have got a real general idea of how to play 8-ball anyway. I think if I was to take those guys out the equation that hadn't had that 8-ball experience, I would favour one of the elite 8-ball players over the snooker player, because essentially the table's not too big for us, and I think the patterns and the know-how of the game, particularly in broken play, would give us a big advantage. So I've still got to favour it to the 8-ball player, the elite 8-ball player. I think the American pool player, I don't think quite pots the balls with enough accuracy consistently. However, if they played it a lot,
I'd say the American players, they've learned their patterns very differently. They've, like, balls on rails and things like this are not an issue. So when you're doing your mapping, like, a ball on a rail is not an obstacle. Whereas on our 7-footers or the Supremes, like the 6-footer size tables, you've extracting balls and playing balls down rails and such. You have to factor that in with your mapping, as from what I know from the Chinese 8-ball tables, they're the hardest down the rails. So I think the American players might struggle the most, I would feel.
So someone like Neil or Selby or whatever, if they continued playing Chinese 8-ball, you think after weeks or a month or two of playing the game, they would then surpass the 8-ball sort of player?
I think the big issue that you've got, and even when you see snooker players play our form of the game, not all of them, of course, but there's obviously a lot of facets to it. So the big thing is can the snooker player break well enough to get enough chances at the table? Like, there's an art to breaking a pool that is unfamiliar to a snooker player, because a snooker player is essentially told to stay still. It's cue through the ball technically, and when you play you play with the American pool balls, when you play the American pool balls, whether you play 9-ball or 10-ball or American 8-ball or Chinese 8-ball, you're almost like launching yourself off your feet to try and get these balls kind of going, So I'd certainly be interested to see how somebody like Selby or Neil would go on a regular basis, because obviously they're going to be a major handful just because they're technically so good. How do I like them going against the top Chinese players? Well, that's those guys are absolutely awesome, So they're Chinese 8-ball players, effectively. Yeah, you know what I mean? We're thinking the 8-ball of like reds and yellows, but these guys are 8-ball players, but they're Chinese 8-ball players, essentially. and they are super, super, super
They
good,
play-
exceptionally
yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah, I was fascinated, Mick, to see. I don't know if you caught this, but Gareth Potts on his YouTube channel had a chat with Stephen Hendry, and he was talking about the break in Chinese 8-ball. And he would always be trying to get a ball into the side pocket. And whether it missed low or high, he could make micro adjustments to his stance and the way that he followed through to get it to throw a little bit higher, a little bit lower, or the pace. And just the way he was so dialed into the break and getting that first ball in to give himself a chance was really impressive.
Yeah, again, we play so many versions of 8-ball, and even on the same. So, for example, if you played 8-ball as it was before when they called it the magic rack, that would give someone that doesn't break the balls as well a far better chance of making a ball. If you then rack the balls with a triangle, then you're into a whole new world again, because obviously you need to be able to make random balls on the break. So the magic rack is second ball down, try and make the ball in the middle. Now, you can do that with a regular rack if the referee's very good, the cloth's new, and she's racking, or he or she's racking the balls extremely well, because they've got to all be touching, right? And they've got to be straight. Whereas if you rack with a triangle, predominantly you need to hit them well enough to make random balls. So the ones in the middle aren't going anymore, and you need to get 15 balls moving around the table that may fall into the top pockets. Now, this is where the guys who have got really, really big breaks are going to overcome this factor far better than the ones that haven't. So in any form of 8-ball, it doesn't matter how good you are, can you create enough opportunity to the table to show your level? So yeah, we're in any form of 8-ball, we're sometimes determined by
fair
what
point.
the organizer deems as being the criteria of what event they want to put on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, it does. Now the event that you're playing in now, let me just recap this, because you mentioned it before, but I was flabbergasted when I saw it. The Joy Heyball Masters Division 1 Tour. There are 88 separate groups of 8 that are all playing in their own little double elimination to get it started. That's 704 players. It blew my mind that there was such an enormous tournament. What does the venue and the event look like? Like they must have an enormous number of tables, and they're playing for days on end just to get through a single round, right?
Yeah, I think that there's like 4 or 5 days of like first round action. Yeah, there's like 700 players, and you win your mini bracket effectively. But when you consider how many people actually play here, 700's actually quite modest, because you could probably have a tournament in England with 256 players, and the pool of players might be, I don't know, 5,000. Like here, there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of thousands of players. So I don't know if they cap it at 700 or whatever it is, but like the Q Sports sort of setup here is just completely off the charts. It's really difficult to try to comprehend it and explain it to people unless you see it with your own eyes, to be honest. Like in certainly in the UK, I mean, I can only imagine Australia is similar. Q Sport is somewhat of a dying sport, where people want to occupy the time, with PlayStations and Xboxes, or do anything other than play Q Sports. I mean, my local town, when I was in my teens, there was 3 snooker clubs within probably a 2K radius, if that. Now there's no clubs in that town. So, but when you come here, it's, you go into the pool halls, and there's 50, 60, 70, 80 table, 200-300 people in there. But what's really unique about it is the spread of people. So in the UK, you might, if you're in Leeds city centres, or Manchester, or somewhere like that, you might get guys with their girlfriends just going in and having a few vodkas and hitting balls around. Here, You may go in a club, there's 200 and there's 100 men and 100 girls, and absolutely like taking it as serious as you like. It's quite unique, you know?
I mean, that's fabulous for the game that they're getting such engagement across the board. But it bodes well for the future of Q Sports coming out of China, I guess. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a special co-host who's joining us today. He got the grilling from us on a previous episode, but today he shifted to the other side of the desk to ask some tough questions himself. Neil Robertson, thanks for joining us as a co-host today.
Yeah, no worries. I'm a bit late coming in, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. So I wanted to ask Mick, and he's probably spent half an hour talking about it, who he thinks would be best equipped to deal with Chinese 8-ball, or transition from Chinese 8-ball, a top-tier snooker player or a top-tier pool.
No, yeah, we did have that question, but I was happy to sort of go over it. It was my sort of view on it was the likes of like Mark Selby and yourself, who I've actually seen played, are obviously really well equipped to play it because you have got the knowledge of 8-ball as well. You know, you've got that general idea of how to play the game. The guys that are coming here, like for example, like Williams and Ricky and a few of the other guys, obviously they pocket the balls, but the patterns would be nowhere near as good as your and Mark's. Now, whether if they played the game, you know, for a long period of time, that would come, you know, possibly, you know, there's you couldn't say that couldn't be the case. Where I feel like the snooker player would really have to improve would be the break shot. So when you was playing in the Yushan days, Neil, you and Mark, they were using the magic rack where essentially you were making the second ball into the middle pockets and getting a lot of table time. And of course, you're going to run the tables out as well as anybody else. They've gone back to the triangle racking the balls now. So depending on who's racking the balls and what the felt's like and everything else, some referees are better than others. Now, there are occasions where you play matches where the second ball is still going into the middle pockets, but there's also matches where you've got to slug the hell out of them and make random balls. And that's obviously where that technique
Like
of the break,
Heyball or someone like that.
yeah, which is where the technique of the break comes in to make random balls into, like, I refer to it as like the yellow pocket or the green pocket. To be honest, that's like my reference to it. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think if you guys had table time, you and Mark, obviously you'd still be you'd obviously, yeah. I think just a general snooker player, like just even a top one, like say John Higgins or Williams, they'd have to put a lot of time into the game to get the patterns right and the shot selection and stuff. So I'd probably favour the top 8-ball player there
Yeah, I
in
agree
that
with that.
instance. But yeah, you like
One with
yourself.
one with like a snooker background, you'd say. One who's like a good potter, you know, like a good technique.
Yeah,
Because you played snooker to a very good level, right? And Gareth did as well. Gareth played snooker to a good level as well.
Well, we'd like to think we did. You wouldn't think it was a particularly good level, but you know we were okay. I think because the pockets are so tight, your patterns are really highlighted. Like you can't do the wrong things and get away with it. Whereas at the reds and yellows on the smaller tables, you could actually play like 3 wrong shots in and out, but still get out. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got that. You haven't. But yeah, like yourself, Quinton and
Yeah,
Mark are obviously
100%.
they're going to go well, you know.
And Mick, could I ask a variation on that question?
Yeah.
If as an outsider looking in, I see you and Gareth, for example, you've committed some time to Chinese 8-ball, but then there's some other players like a Chris Melling, for example, who's flipping back and forth. He's still playing Ultimate Pool. He's playing Chinese 8-ball as well. And a Matt Selk from Snooker, he's going back and forth. Do you think that it's plausible to be able to play both sports simultaneously, or do you need to dedicate some time to be able to have some success?
I don't think so, no. I think Gareth has played full time for the past 12, 13 years, but nobody else has. None of the other guys.
I'll redirect the question to Neil then. Can you play, you know, Chinese 8-ball professionally and be a snooker pro in the top, say, 32? Can you do that? Of course you can, but is it advised?
No, I think you could have sort of moderate success in Chinese 8-ball as a snooker player because we're spending so much time in China anyway. And we do get invited to play in like quite a lot of things. I mean, my sponsor, for example, sent me over 2 Chinese 8-ball tables to my club. Like, you know, they offered to, I only wanted 1, but they sent over 2. So they're pretty keen. I think that if you're a snooker player who has no 8-ball background whatsoever, and then you try and play Chinese 8-ball, I think you'd have to get incredibly lucky. Like what Mick says, the patterns are completely different in pool.
Do some snooker players think that they're just going to go
Strategically as
over
well.
there and do some snooker players think that they're just going to go over there and just blast them off the table, or
No,
they're
not really. No
professionals and
one's.
they're fully aware?
Yeah, fully aware. Especially the break off, because snooker players they've got terrible break offs generally, like really bad. Where mine was sort of half. Mine was decent. I recently played a doubles match with I was in paired with Benji, who's like the best player in the world, and the other 2 were Yubo and an ex snooker player actually, who's one of the best Chinese 8-ball players around now. And we played a doubles game, and I held my own really, really well with them. And they said I improved a lot from the last time I played, and I was breaking pretty well. That was good. I learned a lot from watching them how they break off and stuff, because I've done things with Benji and Yubo before where they were sort of like giving me some tips on how to break off and stuff. Yeah, it's a huge part of it because even for those guys, it's hard for them to pop balls off the breaks as well. They don't just always get one, not like 9-ball or anything like that. Or when you're using a magic rack, I've seen sometimes a magic rack, the ball just always goes in with like a soft break. But if they're using it with the triangles, you need to absolutely belt them. Like the balls have got to literally almost fly off the table. And Yubo and Benji have got like a lot of power. So that gives them a great advantage. And the potting balls down the rails at serious pace as well. That's something else I've learned, is that on the Chinese 8-ball tables, you got to hit them hard down the rail. You can't just like sort of float them in like you would on a snooker table. It's almost like you're trying to squeeze the rubber because of the size of the ball. So there's a lot to it. But I'd say that to have success early on, you definitely have to have an 8-ball background. Without an 8-ball background, you'd have no chance. Like Ronnie O'Sullivan, for example, he'd be terrible at it because 1, he's probably not overly interested, and 2, like the break, he's just he would really struggle, for example.
How much, because probably just a good question while I've got you both, how much would you rate? So like you've obviously got snooker with striking the ball and crisp potting over distance and all that sort of stuff, and then you've got the 8-ball background with mapping and the nitty gritty side of it, safeties and all that sort of stuff. But then you've also got like the professionalism and ability to win. So you two obviously have a ridiculous amount of that. But let's say someone like me, who I've won tournaments, I know what I'm doing, I know how to compete, but I'm not a world beater. But I've also got a decent snooker background and a good 8-ball background. Someone like me, there'd be a lot of me out there in the world who are in this funny little bracket. How important is, because I think the ability to win and professionalism would be the hardest thing to teach. I don't even think you can teach it. So if you guys were to take me with my experience and what you guys know about me, what would you do with me to try and get me to be the best Chinese 8-ball player I can? Would it be a concern of yours that I'm not winning? I've never won on a world stage. How much of it is a problem?
Go on, Neil.
Be brutal as well. That's fine.
No, I think that you would have a better chance than a lot of really top tier snooker players because you do like the game. That's the thing. You have to like it. You can't just play it and want to win and not you have to really enjoy the game. Sometimes it's not always about breaking, potting out. Sometimes there's a few tactical exchanges, which I actually really enjoy in 8-ball. I always enjoyed that, even in the older rules for 8-ball and world rules, and even before that, really, I quite enjoyed all that. I'd say because you have got like a really good technique, I'd say that you would be very capable of running any out that any player in the world could do. You got good. That's the other thing as well. You need nice touch with Chinese 8-ball. There's like the little precise positional shots because the balls are bigger and you're playing on quite a small table. There's a lot of traffic there. So, you need to have like some really nice touch. I mean, the tables are they are absolutely beautiful, but you'd need to practice. I mean, you would have a huge amount of power with the break off, so that wouldn't be an issue. but you just have to practice like a maniac. You'd have to practice the break so many times, the exact spot where you want to put it on the table, the sweet spot, and just repetition after repetition. And you just need to play the game. That's it, really. You need to play it a lot. And on the same conditions you would play in China. I know there's a lot of Chinese 8-ball tables in and around Australia and UK. But once the cloth gets really warm, then it's a completely different game. The angles are so much different as well, aren't they, Mick, when the cloth gets old? So you would always need to make sure that the cloth is new, the cushion cloth is new all the time. The table has to be heated. They're heated in China. You'd have to replicate the exact same conditions. And that's why people in Australia struggle with snookers, because they never replicate the same conditions before heading over to the UK. So it takes so many months to adjust. And then by the time you started adjusting, you're 2 cards over. So that would be it. You have to replicate the exact conditions and practice really hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, the cushions are super like slidey and kind of, it is a completely different game, when the cushions are. But I think alluding to that, Mark, and something that Marty said before was like, I relate to yourself with this, Neil. Obviously, I follow the snooker and Ding in particular. When I think about the food and the language, you guys have had to go to the UK, base yourself there. Your family's not there, and all these different things. I know I've seen some of your interviews on, relating to this. And in Ding's case, can't speak the language, probably hates all the food and all these different things. But it's something that you've got to do. And I say to the guys here all the time, I mean, I'm 45 years of age now. Like, if I was 35, I probably would come here for 6 months or 12 months and base here and get in amongst it and whatever else. I mean, I think the big thing here with these guys, you have to show them that you can play. If they think that you can't play, it's like when we play people at the big guns, or Neil, when you play on the tour and you go, this guy just can't play, and you just trample all over them. It's the easiest game in the world when nothing's coming back at you. And the Chinese, I've noticed, if they really think that you can't play, they run around the table and they will give you zero respect, and it looks like the easiest game in the world. What I think is a little bit different here compared to our sort of pedigree in terms of a bit of fight, a bit of desire, a bit of grit and determination, is I think we've got a bit more about us, one, when we're under the pump, and two, when the back's against the wall, we're like, we're not having this. You roll your sleeves up and you kind of give it back. These guys, I think, can tend to have a bit of a malfunction when things aren't quite going their way. I genuinely do feel that. So one of the big things here is that you've got to make these guys think, or you need to make them believe that you can play. Then it becomes a different game, so it's a 2-part question for me. I feel like Neil's answered the first part of the question perfectly, but the second part is that you've got to make these guys believe that you can play. Otherwise, you just get trampled all over. It's no different to what we do in our chosen game. I don't. Would you elaborate
100%.
on that, Neil?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I think when myself and Mark Selby, when we played in the the first kind of world championship in Yushan in 2015, where they got a lot of big snooker players to come over to sort of boost the profile of it. It became sort of quite obvious the snooker players who weren't particularly grasping to it just got absolutely hammered. But the ones who did, like myself and Selby, we were beating the Chinese players. And I can't remember the name of the one I beat. I think it was in the last 16. He was considered the favorite for the event at the time. And it was a really good match. And I produced some really good shots early on, made a few really good outs, probably surprised him a little bit with some of the shots I was playing. He probably thought typical snooker player, just going to try and pot out all the time. But I wasn't. I was playing good tactical shots. In the deciding frame, I still say that I played one of the best sort of tactical shots of all time in a Chinese 8-ball environment. And it's a shot that no snooker player ever would have thought of. I had quite a straightforward out, and I overscrewed position to let the two snooker myself on the black. And the whole crowd has gone absolutely crazy. And he was dancing in his chair basically, because I don't know if the rules are the same, but we had to nominate which pocket the black went in. Or else if you knocked it in another pocket, it was just a foul. So I couldn't just come off the cushion 100 miles an hour and just fluke it. I had to like come off a cushion and actually nominate the pocket, but there wasn't really anything on to do that. So what I did is that I glanced off one of his balls, made a full ball cannon on the other one, and put both of them hard up on the cushion at the same time to ask him the question of can he pot out from there? And he tried to pot out. He ended up potting one of the balls down the cushion and actually going off in the middle. So it's these kind of little shots that you have to be able to play. And, you know, yeah, like I say, I think maybe myself and Selby probably would have thought of that type of shot, but I don't think anyone else. And yeah, it was a great match. I ended up losing to Darren Appleton in the quarters, actually. 12-11 it was, I think. And, you know, Darren went on to win it. So, and Darren was really good as well. He beat a lot of the really good Chinese players as well. And, yeah, Darren beat Mark in the final. So you have to prove to them that, you know, you can play the game and that you do enjoy the game. You know, so I think Sean Murphy played in it and he was, you know, he's terrible. He didn't enjoy it. He hated the rules and, you know, they just wiped the floor with him. So yeah, Mick was spot on with that.
So you've really got to go over there and stamp your authority saying, I'm here to play and win. I'm not just here to make up the numbers and just play the game. We see that over here with in the 8-ball when an Australian snooker player decides to have a go at an 8-ball tournament, and a lot of them just kind of think that they'll just pot all the balls and it's all going to be really easy. And we can tell the ones that very quickly are actually we're gonna have our hands full, and the ones that they'll just beat themselves. We won't even have to do anything. They'll just beat themselves. But you can tell the ones that are really and they don't even have to be the best player, but they show a certain level of confidence, and that confidence, if they get off to a good start or if things are a little bit tricky for you, it can build quite quickly. You know, like if you and me, Neil, went over there and the draw was done and someone saw that they had Robertson, they're probably, oh shit. And then all of a sudden I turn up and they get told, oh no, he's the weaker one. He looks all right over the cue, but he's not that good. All of a sudden their confidence goes up and the balls that they were maybe going to miss against you, they start making against me, you know? So the winning creates winning over there. If you go over there and play in maybe some of the smaller tournaments and can start winning some of the smaller ones, would that be some good advice for guys like me? And, you know, like, I don't know if I'm trying to think of James Delahunty's probably a good example. If James Delahunty wanted to do well, would you recommend that he goes over there and spends a few months and tries to play in some smaller events and try and win them and develop a reputation? Is that worth doing?
Me or you, Neil? Well, I think the match that Neil was referring to, the guy called Yang Fan was the guy that you beat 13-12 and you played the tactical shot. He's one of the best players. Yang Fan it was who you played the tactical shot in 216, 215, whatever it was. But I think with what you're saying there, Mark, is I think that the big thing when what Neil and Mark obviously brought to the table then, just to quickly just go on that one, was the fact that obviously those guys know Neil and Mark. So they've got that sort of big reputation and that little bit, they're a bit scared, even though they're great players, they're still a little bit scared because of who you guys are. I think referring to your situation, Mark, is I think you've obviously got to create your own kind of, fear factor.
Now, unfortunately, Mick Hill's connection dropped out at this point. So thanks to Mick for joining us. A bit of an abrupt end, but we continue the conversation with Neil Robertson.
I think it would be more, I think you just have to establish it early playing. I don't think they have too many like smaller events out there, ones where the competition is easier. They still have a lot of really good players at all of them. And I think they're kind of like every other week. I know that it's gaining popularity over here where there's more events. That's a good start. But it all depends on what the tables are like as well. If they're all new cloth with the new rails, like what Mick was saying, it's so important to play on the tables with brand new cloth, brand new cushions, because it's a completely different game. I've watched one event. I think I watched Justin Sage and Kurt Dunham play, and it was clearly a tournament. It was played here, And yet the tournament was clearly played on older cloth, and I was watching them play, and it was horrific, the standard, like absolutely awful. Yeah, partly because like a large part of that was because the table was so tough. You know, if those tables, if the cloth is worn on the cushions, then they just play really tight as well. They're tight anyway. They're really hard anyway. But this makes them, you know, some shots almost impossible. So I think you'd have to get to a really good standard over here, and then, you know, as the game develops more and more over here, we'd have better events. And then go to China, probably the thing to do would probably to go to like an academy or something for a week, maybe
Right,
before a big tournament there, and practice with some of the really, really good players and watch them play and give them a couple of matches. You know, just sort of like learn really the different shot selection and things like that. Yeah, that would be the way to do it.
So I think there's a lot of players in the world who would be around my level and experience. Not me in particular. I don't like the travel and all that sort of side of it. But there'd be a lot of people in the world my level that would be very interested in playing in it. But then you've sort of got to weigh up the expenses of the travel, the lack of experience. Like you said, there's tournaments over there all the time. You're going in blind and dark, and it's very daunting and everything. And you're just sort of trying to work out what edge you can get, but it doesn't really seem like there is one. You know, this one feels like it's a bit of an uphill battle.
Yeah, kind of like snooker players like me going to the UK.
Yeah,
To play
I feel
snooker,
like,
you know, it's just going to be a big expense, and it's something that makes the chances of success so much harder. Like it is for the UK players going to China to play Chinese 8-ball, the exact same thing.
yeah,
The
I
different
feel
food, different culture, all that sort of stuff. You know, you got to sort of embrace all that, and if you don't, then it's going to slowly affect your performances out there, and yeah, that's what's going to make it tough. That's why the growth of the game worldwide is really important. Like to get really good big events in the UK, big events in Australia. I'd say there's probably end up going to be more in Australia than there would be in the UK, because it's, you know, it's kind of like a lot closer with the time zone and everything like that. And, you know, a lot of Chinese people in Australia as well. So I see a brighter future from Australian sort of Chinese 8-ball players than I probably would from the UK, sort of barring Gareth Potts or Mick Hill, those types of guys.
I think that was really good advice there, that embrace all of it, because whenever I've thought about it, it's just the game. I've never actually thought about embracing, you know, the China, the culture, the people, the travel, you know, embracing everything. Because if you don't, yeah, it's you just trying to fight your way out of a paper bag, you know, with both arms tied behind your back.
And Neil, like all those questions from Mark about what would make him a Chinese 8-ball players, you know, he probably committed on the pod to playing in a Chinese 8-ball event later this month, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I think he'll do all right because,
Yeah, I think he will too.
yeah, general knowledge of the game. I think the rules are very similar to the current rules of the pool as well.
I had a funny little thing I was going to do with Neil, with you and Mick Hill. I was going to do this funny little comparison about who would win at what cue sport, and it was strategically going to be a draw, like 2-2. And then I was going to have a decider with some sporting trivia that I thought you both might enjoy. But obviously he's not here, so maybe Mick Scerri can pretend to be Mick Hill and see who wins at this sporting trivia.
I'm bad at accents, but go ahead.
Sporting trivia. Yeah.
And then the funny thing was, the last question was going to be a bit of a stitch up, because it was a AFL, Aussie Rules football question.
A Collingwood based Aussie Rules question. Yeah.
Go the Pies. Man, I did well.
Let's see how you go, Mick Scerri, pretending to be Mick Hill, who claims he's got extremely good sporting trivia. I would have actually liked to have seen this.
I'm probably the worst you'll ever see at it.
I know. I feel there's going to be a bloodbath.
Depends what it is. Some people have got great sporting trivia, but not so much in American sports or something like that.
Well, this first
can
one,
can I be a backup for Scerri? Like I don't think I.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 against 1.
You're Marty Chat GPT.
2 against 1 here. All right. So this is soccer. football, so soccer football. Which country won the first ever FIFA World Cup in 1930?
Brazil.
No,
Well,
it
you
wasn't
can-
Brazil.
There, Marty.
Do you want
It's
me to
not
try?
Brazil.
Can I try another answer? Germany.
Yeah, of course.
It wasn't Germany either.
Neil is so far correct.
Yeah, Neil's so confident. Stop telling us who it wasn't, Neil, and tell us who it was.
Yeah, who it was?
First ever World Cup.
Yeah, it was.
Poland?
No, it wasn't any of those. It was something like. It was something like.
Italy.
It was something like Hungary, something like that.
I don't think it was one of the big ones.
You gotta lock
was-
in. You gotta lock it in 5.
It was Hungary, Paraguay. It was something like that. It's sort of like it was a country.
Paraguay. I like Paraguay.
Yeah, it was something like that. I'm gonna say Hungary, but I don't know.
Uruguay.
Uruguay. I
That's-
knew it was like Paraguay, Uruguay. I knew it was. Yeah. God damn it! So close.
So much closer than the Aussies on the call. The Aussies and
Tennis.
the Maltese.
Tennis was the next question. Who was the youngest player to win a Grand Slam singles title in the Open era? Male or female?
Male or
Monica
female?
Seles?
Yeah. No.
No. Oh, Serena Williams.
Martina Hingis.
Martina
Chat Marty
Hingis.
GPT.
Oh yeah.
That's 1-0.
And if it was
1-0.
men, it would have been Boris Becker.
Yeah,
I'm
he won
looking at it.
Wimbledon, didn't he?
Yeah.
She was 16. So golf.
Oh.
Who was the first golfer?
Geez,
in-
Martina Hingis won. She won her first major when she was 16 as well.
I thought she was 15, actually. But anyway, 16. That's good. Still,
Golf. Who was the first golfer in history to win the Masters tournament 5 times?
well, the obvious answer might not be
Don't
correct,
know.
but I'll go with it. Jack Nicklaus.
It's incorrect.
Is John Daly too old? Or too
Sorry, far too young.
or too young, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Not old.
5 times the Masters.
5 times the Masters. Okay. What about
I mean, is it Tiger Woods?
kind of
Correct. Neil, Tiger
That's-
Woods.
Thank you.
5 points.
Yeah, I was going to say. Jack Nicklaus was a great shout, though. Jack must have
all
won
right.
a lot of PGAs or US Opens as well.
1-1.
Can I give you a little bit of trivia, bit of Jack Nicklaus trivia? If Jack Nicklaus won more majors than any other golfer in history, who was runner-up more times than any other player in history?
I think
Jack.
Jack.
The answer
Jack-
is Jack Nick. The answer is Jack Nicklaus. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
you
he's
want
runner up a lot.
if you want to win in the big dance, you got to keep turning up.
Mm.
There you go. You didn't give up. So it's 1-1. There's 3 more. Snooker. Who was the first player to officially record a 147 maximum break in a professional tournament? Who was the first player to get a 147 in an official tournament?
To
The
record,
first
not
televised was Steve
televised.
Davis. Televised was Steve Davis.
Who was the first player to officially record a
Recorded.
147, so I suppose televised, maximum break in a professional snooker tournament?
Yeah, it was
Neil
Steve,
got it.
Steve
That was
Davis
Steve.
in the Lada
That was
Classic.
Steve Davis, yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Lada
the Lada
Classic.
Classic.
He got a Lada. He got a car.
It's 2-1.
He said it was a piece of crap as well.
It's 2-1 to the Aussies. Mick Hill
Yeah,
is
I'm not
sadly
joking.
losing this. And even though Mick Hill said he was the greatest sporting trivia, he's not really proving it right now.
Yeah, Martin. Yeah.
Cricket. Who was the only batsman to score 100 in international centuries across formats?
100 international centuries.
Who was the only batsman
Across
to
all
score
formats.
100 test centuries and 100 day
No,
nighters.
no one's done 100 test centuries.
Is he from India?
He is from
Sorry,
India.
is that what you mean?
Who was
Is
the
he
only
that, what's that guy's name?
Tendulkar, Sachin Tendulkar.
That's
That's-
it. Sachin Tendulkar. Oh, it's 2-2.
Hey!
Well done, Mick.
Not really, because is it Marty and Mick against me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Mick's useless.
Wow.
It's really
So it's
Marty
2-2.
against you.
Hey, I
The
gave you the
decide-
India part.
The decider.
Ooh.
Aussie rules football. And it's first person to say the answer. Which AFL club has won the most VFL AFL premierships in history?
Collingwood Magpies.
That's me.
I think it is Hawthorn.
No,
No, it's not Hawthorn.
Mick, Scary. It's all on you.
It's
not Hawthorn and it's not Essendon. Don't give him a clue.
it's
What did you say,
Essendon then.
Collingwood? Or did you say Geelong? What
I
was your
said
first
Collingwood.
one? Collingwood.
You said,
Neil
It's
said
like-
Collingwood.
Mick says Collingwood.
no, I didn't say Collingwood. I didn't
So it's
say
not-
Collingwood at all.
It's not Collingwood. It's not Hawthorn.
Carlton. I don't think it's
Mark's
Carlton,
got
but
a funny face.
I thought it was Hawthorn.
It could be Carlton now because look at Mark's face.
Is it a yes
I
or a
don't know.
no?
Go for Carlton.
It is Carlton and Essendon. I accidentally said Essendon earlier because I was reading it. But you kind of cheated.
I said Essendon.
Because Marty put in his answer and it was wrong, and then Marty said Carlton, and then
Yeah,
Mick
I
went
know.
by that. We'll call it a draw.
Yeah, exactly. Mick is actually horrific.
All right, we'll
Mick,
call it
you
a
are
draw.
not
Actually,
invited to any
we'll have
sporting trivia nights at all.
We'll have a quick split decider.
That's
I'm going to
fair
make up
enough.
a sporting trivia question off the top of my head.
Hang on. So I shouldn't do this, but like I just put that into Google and Collingwood is equal with Essendon and Carlton.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When we won the flag, I thought when we won the flag a few years ago, I thought that equaled us with the most.
Yeah, as of 2024.
Well,
Yeah,
Chat GPT 5 is wrong then. I should have asked it too.
Yeah, I am the victor.
Said,
yes.
Well, you both are because you said Carlton and Collingwood, which is both correct. So a split decider, first person to get this wins.
But you said first person to say it, and I was the first.
Yeah, but there's multiple answers.
We're going to edit this in with that bit last week where you said Neil finds a way to win everything.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Who is only the second Australian player to knock in the winning black for Australia to win the world teams title? 8-ball. Who is only the second?
Mick Scerri.
That's it. Mick, that was about you and you didn't even get it.
I did get it. It was me and Cran. I kept my mouth shut there.
Player.
I was going to let Neil win to make him happy.
And did you know that the two of you played some of the luckiest shots ever in the winning out? Cran almost went in off, came off the draw and landed absolutely fat on the black. And you overscrewed a shot by about 16 feet to land on a ball.
I was coming back in the vicinity.
Now, Mick,
it wasn't really luck. It was just you didn't play to screw it back that much.
I had a lot of balls to land on.
The table was so reactive, mate. It was like glass.
And we were
played
never
a couple of shots. I couldn't believe it.
And we were never allowed to actually. Oh, you were there. Yeah, that's right. We were never allowed to actually play on it. So we were making it up as we go.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to practice on it.
I wanted 2 or 3 shots, and then I would have mapped it completely different. But it was so hard because we didn't know.
No,
you saw a shot.
You played the sensible shot because you gave yourself the most amount of options.
You saw a shot early on in that match. Jake just goes to screw the ball back a foot, and he literally screwed it back 4 feet. And
the black wasn't easy as well, from memory. It was easy, but like it was missable.
Mix. Yeah. In practice,
just for pressure.
In practice, it's close to 100 out of 100, but that level of pressure. Glad it wasn't me.
Yeah, what was the score?
8-6.
8-6.
Yeah.
I had wiggle room, so if I lost,
it wasn't your fault.
8-6. Yeah,
would have been Andretski's fault.
So it was 7-6.
It was 7-6, and if I lost, I was okay because we were still in it. So it was a win-win for me. I was in the perfect scenario, perfect spot. Yeah, so that's why the pressure was there. I could feel my heartbeat literally beat every single beat as I was out there. It was actually, I never want to feel that again, but I felt that throughout the semis and the final, but I was in the perfect spot towards the end to actually win it for us. And if I didn't, we still had a chance. So it was absolutely unreal. But I did want like Sage or Woodsy or whatever to win it before me. But obviously,
Yeah, if you had if you had a choice, you'd rather pop the winning ball. But
yeah,
if someone else does it early on, you're also pretty damn happy as well.
That's right. Look, I wanted us to go away and actually obviously win it because we've been over there plenty of times, and it was just nice to do it with the best mate as well. So to not only make a Victorian side, but then to make the Australian side, and then to go away and win a world title. And it was just, it was all a dream come true, actually. Mark and I practiced a lot together. We were setting up tables. We were setting up the balls like it was the last frame at the world titles. That's how we were practicing because we'd always have to have a scenario about things. And we'd done, we'd go 7-all, race to 8. And then we'd start getting nervous. Honestly, it does help and it does work. So.
No, that's very true. Absolutely. 100%. I do it all the time. The amount of times I'm clearing up the colours and I'm convincing myself it's for a 147 at the Crucible or to pop the winning balls in a big tournament. Yeah. No, 100%. That's actually really important.
Mick, you were talking about like it was coming up to you, but you would rather someone won it before you. But when it come up to you, if you remember in the quarterfinals, we actually had a awesome match against, I think it was Wales. Anyway, it was probably the highest standard match. Anyway, it's 9-all first to 11, and I'm last if it goes 10-all. And Rusty's just come off and he's won his.
Right there.
Yeah, so Rusty's just come off and won his frame for us to go 9-all. And I saw him go over to the score sheet and I heard him say, "Who's up last?" And then they said me. And then he's looking around the room and he's found me and he's heading straight towards me. I'm like, oh God, I couldn't breathe. Like he's coming over to give me a big pep talk and everything. Anyway, he actually didn't really say much, thank God. And we're watching you and Sage play and it's 9-all first to 11. And I'm thinking there's a little part of me that wanted to be the hero. You know, like, and if I knew 100%, like if I could look into the future and if it did come down to me and I won, I would rather one of you had lost and I get to play and, you know, be the hero and all that. But I was praying like God that you both won. Anyway, it got to the point me and Rusty are watching and you both are playing and you both are looking right to win. And all of a sudden, both of you, it went horrible. Like horrible. You both lost position at the same time. And then me and Rusty were just like praying for me to get a shot now. Like now we're just hoping. And then at the same time, Justin's drilled a long ball down a rail, one of the best shots you've ever seen under pressure, and then to land on the black. And then you've played a shot with reverse side off 3 rails, a shot that you actually often practice. And you've swung the wide around off 3 rails to recover for your last ball. And all that happened in about 30 seconds. We've gone from looking like winning to losing to winning that quick. It was unbelievable. Yeah. The
Oh, it was on 2
emotional roller
tables the
coaster.
match.
Yeah, 2 tables.
But
Yeah. Ugh, that was
So
crazy.
here's the question. If it wasn't like 9-all, it was like 8-9, and then say you had that chance like I did in the grand final where if you lost, it was still like you weren't the last player kind of thing. Would you prefer, obviously we all prefer if, like in my position when we were in the final, if I'd lost, it wasn't over. So I could actually be the hero in a way. So the pressure was taken off then. In your position, it was hard because you'd love to be the hero, like you said, but you also are happy or just as happy, if not happier, for the other 2 guys to actually make it. And he's moving to the, semi-finals.
Yeah,
So it was a bit of a weird situation.
Yeah, there would have been no second chance draw with me. This would have been that would have been it. Something on that match that I always actually remember that I was really proud of us. James Della was amazing throughout the whole series, but in that match, in that quarterfinals match, he lost all 3 frames. I reckon during the round robin stage, he maybe lost 5 in total. Like he shot like 90%. And I was actually really proud of the team that James had done so well for us throughout the whole thing. And then right at the end in the quarterfinals, he lost all 3 games and he really needed us. And we all, I don't know, it felt like we stepped up and that was sort of like a good one for James in a way because he didn't win a frame
Yeah,
that we still won.
Mm.
It was nice.
Yeah, because I watched from the semi-finals onwards, and I thought James was fantastic. I think he won every game in the semis and
Yeah,
final.
he did. And I think he ran the rack every time he got to the table.
He played brilliant. Yeah. He played the best standard because there wasn't any messy frames. He won. He won them convincingly, and it's very clinical.
Yeah, he was exceptional.
Neil, let me put you on the spot. Is there a future where you're playing in a professional Chinese 8-ball tournament or a professional 8-ball tournament, ultimate pool, something like
Chinese 8-ball I could definitely see for sure. Yeah, especially the way the money's going in it. Like their biggest prize is bigger than any snooker tournament. So
Well, I'll give you
the sponsors want me to they want me to play in it because it boosts the profile of it, and also I look the part in it as well and not too out of place with it. You can't just invite maybe, like a top player to just do it. I don't know. Judd Trump doesn't really like it. Judd could be good at it, but he just doesn't really get it. He doesn't like it. So there's not much value in him playing in it. You need to do yourself justice in it as well. But I could definitely see myself competing in a few events for sure.
Yeah, the second event that Mick's playing in, not the one now, but in a couple of weeks' time, the Super Tour, which is 64 players. First prize in that is about 425,000 Australian dollars. So some serious prize money.
Yeah, I mean, I think people in Australia, they should be really trying their best to get really good Chinese 8-ball conditions set up in the tables. It's it's a size where it can fit in someone's house quite comfortably. And you can set it up and, you know, and yeah, you can play it, you know, and it's not so far away, you know, travel away. You don't have to move to China to do it. You can compete. You can play in Australia and
It's
compete.
funny,
You can
yeah.
go to China for a month and all that sort of stuff. You know, so yeah, I'm surprised that people aren't really pushing for it. Like if I was really good at like sort of say English pool and, you know, had a really good technique, I would be giving it a red hot go.
How do you find going from, say, Chinese 8-ball to snooker? I mean, the talk of the town is always people don't like, you know, adjusting from 8-ball to 9-ball to snooker, and a lot of people do find it funny. I mean, I personally, I adjust pretty quick. I think because I sort of imagine myself playing on like if I play snooker for a few hours or a day or two in a comp and then go and play 8-ball, I just tell people that I sort of imagine how I was playing 8-ball mentally, and then I can sort of adapt to it very quickly. How do you go about, like, does it bother you much at all going from, say, Chinese 8-ball to snooker or having a hit on an 8-ball
No,
table? Like
because
what
I
you're doing
think
now? Like,
with English, like sort of 8-ball with a smaller white, you can be quite lazy and still pot out a lot. With Chinese 8-ball, you just can't do that. The pockets are too tight. You can miss anything if you're not. So I do my snooker technique for my Chinese 8-ball kind of shots.
benefits, yeah.
Where if I started to play a lot of pool with the smaller wide, I could see myself getting a little bit lazy, and then it could take a little bit longer to go back to playing top tier snooker.
What about the American table?
No. So I think the transition between snooker and Chinese the transition between Chinese 8-ball and snooker is quite easy to bounce back and forth. But I think
What
if I
about
was to play
American? Is that you can be a bit
no,
more lazy
again,
with?
lazy technique, massive pockets, you know,
Yeah.
huge skill to be one of the best in the world, absolutely, 100%. But again, my technique would suffer snooker-wise, where with Chinese 8-ball, yeah, not so much.
Neil,
Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to ask Mick Hill, but perhaps you can answer is, we've talked a lot about 8-ball players coming to Chinese 8-ball and snooker players coming to Chinese 8-ball, but there is this world of American 8-ball and 9-ball players coming as well. And the one thing that they bring that the 8-ball players and the snooker players don't have is a jump shot. But does it, like, how much does that even impact the game? Is it how rare is it for a jump shot to come out?
It's certainly not super rare. I mean, again, like I saw Appleton play an amazing jump shot where he potted the last ball and landed perfect on the black, and you know, that in that sort of situation there, like a snooker player can never play that shot. So yeah, you definitely have to learn how to play jump shots. Absolutely, I've seen some of the Chinese 8-ball guys as well play just fantastic shots. And it's not. You're not playing necessarily a jump shot because you played a bad positional shot. You're having to play one because someone snookered you. You know, so you do need to practice it. And yeah, the American guys are unreal at the jump shots and stuff like that. Yeah, but I think out of all the cue sports, I'd say the American pool players would probably struggle the most with Chinese 8-ball just because of their techniques. Their techniques are suited to the big pockets, a different delivery of the cue. The cloth is completely different. With a Chinese 8-ball, the cloth is the same as snooker cloth, so the ball deflects like the same. So that's where I found it quite easy, is I'm just playing snooker shots but just with a bigger ball. So you go up to, I think I was using like a 10.5 mil or a 10 mil tip for Chinese 8-ball.
So not
That's
enormous.
perfect.
Yeah.
No, not I would never use I'd never use a 9-ball cue for Chinese 8-ball. To break I would, but not in general play. Same with a lot of the best guys, actually. They use 10 mil. The two best players in the world, they use like 10.5 max.
And is the cue still a snooker style cue, using an ash cue?
Yeah,
with
the
a
ones
10 mil
that
tip?
I had made, yeah. Kang C, they made me the Chinese 8-ball cues, and yeah, they're awesome. They don't have like the plastic kind of like ferrule kind of tips. They're the proper brass or titanium ferrule. Yeah, so the transition is pretty smooth.
Thanks, Neil, for joining us again. It was great to have you on as a co-host / last-minute guest. It was a bit of fun. Scary, as always. Thanks for joining us.
All good.
See you later, guys.
Later.
Bye.
Cheers, bud.